Good evening, guys. 8 o'clock was today, 9th of April, I believe. 8 o'clock in Ireland. We're going to be doing another webinar tonight. It's going to be about self-sabotage. And let's see who is in. See a couple of names already. Welcome, guys. Welcome, Michelle. Welcome, Natalie. Welcome, Shivani. Welcome, Stoika. All right, we're still having people popping in. We're going to take it a little bit slow. We're on Facebook tonight, on YouTube, on Zoom, on Instagram. So, good evening, all of you. I think there's a few people there who were already there last Friday. So anyway, quick introduction. My name is Erik, 56 years old. I'm from Holland, the Netherlands. So not a native speaker. Came to Ireland about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years now, in the summertime. One of my passions is delivering workshops, webinars, these kind of things. And so voila, tonight, perhaps a popular title, Self-Sabotage. And I'm curious actually why you guys are here. Maybe you want to fill me in already just as an introduction, just to have a little bit of an idea. I'm talking to a camera, can't see you, you can see me obviously, which is cool. You know, but sometimes it's a bit awkward. You're just talking to a lens. You have no clue, you know, what's going on at the other end, people's emotions, people's expectations. So I'm very curious. Why are you here, and where are you from? Maybe you want to share that with me. Where are you from? Why are you here? I see a few hands already. Stoika, good evening. Nice to have you here. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Okay, Jonathan Augustine. That's cool. Welcome, Jonathan. Good evening to you. All right. Anybody else who wants to share why you are here? Perhaps. Hey, Stoika, good to see you on camera too. Nice to see you there. Hello. So my computer's over here. You see me watching into the camera sometimes, slanting a bit to my right, so I can actually see what's going on in the chat. Okay, and still people coming in. All right, we started a little bit late, so I'm just going to take it easy the first minute. Okay, well, you know what? Let's just get started. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to take some data from a book that I actually presented already last week, Friday. And that's this book. It's called Self-Analysis. It's a title by L. Hubbard. And basically it contains a method to erase a whole lot of self-doubt in you, to erase a whole lot of let's say, lack of confidence. And so what we're going to do shortly is we're going to do a little mind drill, a little explanation of the mind, what's going on in the mind, how does it work for you. But as you can tell, you know, with negative experiences, you can probably see that that your mind is also working against you from time to time, causing you stress, causing you nervousness, causing you to be feeling insecure, and what have you, right? So let me see what else in the chat. Shivani, I'm here because self-sabotage whenever I'm angry. All right, well, thank you very much for your answer. That's appreciated. There's some more people popping in. Fantastic. Well, so let me just write down the definition of self-sabotage. All right, so self-sabotage boils down to something very, very simple. You hinder and you stop your own success. That's ultimately what it is. So just to get back to you guys, who could give me an example of that? Who could give me an example of this self-sabotage, which is to say you hinder, you stop you make your own progress impossible. You can probably think with things that you're running into in life. You know, like sometimes you hear, for example, a person saying he tried 5 times to get his driver's license, just couldn't get through the exams. Every time he had to do the test, he would fail because he would be freaking nervous or something like this, you know, and then the whole thing seemed to be sabotaging. So maybe you want to share with me tonight. You can keep it personal. You could also, for example, give an example that you have seen in another person. Let's say that makes it more easy. You've seen another person self-sabotaging. So drop a few examples in the chat, and let's come up with a few ideas of how that works in practice, how that works in real life. All right, Manesh, addiction, absolutely, yeah. It could be any addiction, right? It could be gambling, spending money, shopping, alcohol, drugs, sex, what have you, right? Rad, sabotaging now in progress with my HMI trainer and dietitian. All right, you may want to fill me in on HMI. As I just mentioned, I'm not a native speaker, and that is like a little bit of a misunderstood for me, HMI. But anyway, thank you for your answer. That's appreciated. Self-criticism, yeah, very much. Yeah, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I'm not cut out for this. Well, he is very good at that, but me, not so. I could never do what you do, and that kind of stuff, that kind of self-criticism. All right, good. Now let's try to go to the bottom. Okay, my trainer dietitian, thank you so much. Negative thinking and then not being able to achieve what can easily be done. Thank you, Shivani. That's a very good one. Okay, well, let's just go to the bottom. The whole idea here is that, you know, I studied engineering in the past, and when you study engineering, you learn to think with cause and effect. Yeah, let's say you're driving, your car breaks down, you bring it to a garage, and you would never expect the mechanic to just look there and say, well, that is a very, very interesting phenomenon. Well, we don't know what it causes yet, but we might figure this out in the next 4 years. Why don't you just leave your car with us, and if you give us 4 years, we'll probably have it fixed. Yeah, that is like, well, if you get that kind of answer, you would instantly know the person had no idea what he was talking about, right? So you would never accept that in physical sciences. And as a matter of fact, when we see somebody who truly knows his job, then we usually admire that. We say, wow, you know, that person really knows what he's doing. He's really knowing his business. And it's a funny thing. You look at the humanities. So let's take, for example, psychology. It's a fantastic subject. It's very, very interesting. Now you ask a psychologist, a psychiatrist, somebody in those sciences, how does the mind work? What is the cause that I'm self-sabotaging? What is the cause behind my own criticism? Why do I do that to myself? What causes that to happen? And if you ask that question, you're not going to get an answer. That's the funny thing. In other words, in the human sciences, that kind of research, that kind of answer, that kind of discovery is totally obsolete. And I'm going to brag just a little bit about this gentleman here, L. Ron Hubbard. he did a fantastic amount of research into the mind, and he actually happened to discover what is the true source, the one and only source of anything in life that's holding you back. So right now, it is actually known what is the single source behind everything that's causing self-doubt, insecurity. You can't be what you want to be. In other words, you can't be yourself. You can't do what you desire to do. You can't have what you want to have. There's one single source behind all of this, and it's finally discovered what it is. And so, in other words, that kind of like deserves a Nobel Prize in itself. And on top of that, if that answer would be found, what is that single source that holds you back? If that answer would be found, and it would lead to solving your problem, you might imagine that you're going to step up in your confidence and in your competence. And so self-doubt would be something of the past. Self-sabotaging would be something of the past. Now, the genius of this book is that actually it's like a beginner's book. It contains various processes that you can do on your own. You can also give these processes to somebody else. You can give them to yourself even, with the use of how the book is designed for you. And you can actually start working on dismantling that negative cause in your mind. So let's have a look. First of all, how does the mind work? So we're going to do a little exercise. What I want you to do right now is just get a memory of being on holidays. Just get a memory of being on holidays. And just pick any holiday. Maybe you're going to get a picture of being at a camping. Or maybe you get a picture of being at the beach. Or maybe you get a picture of being in a swimming pool, a hotel. You probably, when I bring this up, you probably get memories. You probably see pictures. If I would say hotel, you might get a glimpse of that hotel. If I would say a camping, you might get a glimpse of the area, maybe your tent or the caravan. If I would say swimming pool, you get a picture of the swimming pool. Yeah, and let's I see I have a still image here, but I guess it's still moving. Now let's make this a little bit more concrete and see how that works. So what I would like you to do is now we're going to go back in time and imagine that you're in your favorite chair in the living room in the house where you grew up. So let's say you go back to the period when you were younger, you were living with your parents, you grew up. Just pick any of the houses where you lived and pick any of the chairs in the living rooms where you would used to sit. So now that you have that, let's imagine you're sitting in that chair, you're in that same living room again. Now we're going to do this funny drill. And it gets really real if you basically follow the instructions. And it would be, what I want you to do from where you're sitting, just locate the TV in that room and with your index finger, just point to it. So for example, if I would go back to my childhood and from where I was sitting, I would say, well, the TV is right there. And it's so many meters away from me. For me, it was like 4 meters away. So if you have that, let's find another object and let's find a table. So again, from where you're sitting, point to a table. Then I would have one right in front of me. And when I look at it, I can actually see the shape. I could see that it had 2 little doors in it, 2 little drawers. I could see the legs, I could see the texture, I could see the color, and I got a picture of that table. All right, let's find another one. Let's find a window, just any window, and point to the window. I would have a window right there, and we'll get a picture of it too. And finally, where would the kitchen be? And I would have a kitchen just behind me. All right. Now, I hope you kind of like did the same thing. We're going to have a look how that works. So, I'm going to take another color. The board is still a little bit wet. So let's say that is your body. And you just looked at a picture. You just looked at a mental image picture. I would actually have to say you just looked at various mental image pictures. So you looked at some mental images from your holidays, right? You may have seen a caravan, a tent, grass, sea, beach, swimming pool. So you looked at different pictures. And now you just did a little exercise, being in your favorite chair in the living room and basically spotting that whole room around you. So in your mind, you have the capacity to just recall any picture at will. That's how it should be, at least. So you're sitting in your chair and you're kind of like recreating the whole room again around you. So what you could see is that picture actually happens to be three-dimensional. Now, funny observation here, because what did you do? You would say, well, the TV is over there. I got a chair over here. I got a window over there. I have the kitchen behind me, right? You kind of like indicate that that picture is not in your brain. Now, isn't that a funny discovery? It is not over there. You did not say, hang on, the front window is here in the front of my skull. The kitchen here is in the back of my skull. The TV there is somewhat there in the middle. And the window here is just on the inside of my temple. You wouldn't do that. You would clearly point in space. Now, the funny thing is that in the early 1900s, there was a psychologist that actually had the idea that all the information was in the brain. And from that point onward, we actually got a brain theory, and people have continued with the assumption. It wasn't a scientific fact. It was an assumption that it was in the brain. So now this led us to believe in the brain theory. Everything was in the brain. The brain is a kind of like a chemical kind of thing. And that meant that your IQ would be fixed, that your competence would be fixed, and that your personality traits would be fixed. In other words, unalterable. That happens to be false. It does not happen to be true. And as a matter of fact, that theory never worked and never really produced any results. So we had to look at what was really going on here. So we're looking at something that is called, for a good reason, a mental image picture. So mental refers to not physical. You cannot touch these pictures. Now, when you were sitting in the chair, when you were just imagining that again, you could probably clearly see the TV, as if you could almost touch it. You might have been able to clearly see the table or the window or any other object in that room, right? Nobody else would see it, but you could see it, right? In other words, you could experience those pictures. Good. Now, if we look at what the mind is, we could kind of like sketch it like this. It's like a whole bunch of pictures going back in time, and basically your entire lifespan has been recorded. Now, it might just be that, for example, that there's some kind of a block. Some people say, I can't go earlier than my 3rd year, or I can't go earlier than my 7th year, or whatever. However, it's all there. Yeah. So here, all these pictures, they will serve you with information. Now, how do we use that mind? Let's say you are coming home and you're dropping your keys somewhere. Now, you may go to another room, you may change rooms again, you may go outside, you may come back, and at some point you realize that you have to go. So you put your hands in your pockets and say, hang on, where's my keys? Now, what would you do? Would you actually go about in all these different spaces, all these different rooms where you had been before? Or would you use your mind? Well, most likely, you're going to just think a little bit and say, hang on, I got home and, oh, that's right, I put my keys in the cupboard. So what you do is you grab the picture, and now the picture will tell you where to find the keys. So that's how it works, and we call that the analytical mind. We could call that the analytical mind since it analyzes data for us. It's super smart, and if it's in a good condition, it'll always work for you and solve any problem. All right, now I have a question for you guys. So we just looked at some pictures, the holidays, the living room. Here's the question: Did looking at any of those pictures, did looking at these pictures cause you any stress or discomfort? If you want to share that with me in the chat, please. Did any of these pictures that you just looked at, the living room, the holidays, did that cause you any stress or discomfort? Okay, I think Kyle just said no. Thank you very much. Danielle, no. Natalie, not necessarily discomfort, but some sort of feeling, definitely. All right, cool. That's nice. Red, a little, thank you very much. Stoika, some of them. Okay, good, thank you. All right, now, I have another question. So the whole idea is that we do some interaction tonight. The more interaction, the more real this whole thing becomes. And I really appreciate your comments. And the next question basically is this: have you ever gone to a job interview? Or did you ever have to do a speech or a presentation to a number of people, and you felt nervous or you felt uncomfortable? Has that ever occurred to you? You went to a job interview, you had to do a speech or a presentation, and you felt nervous or uncomfortable. Has that happened? Yes, Danielle, thank you. Kyle, definitely. Okay, Rand, recently, all of the above. Okay, thank you, fantastic. Stoika, yes, okay. Awesome. Okay, from Facebook, Umberto Pineda, many realizations on how your examples, how the mind works. Okay, yes, I was missing my daughter. All right. Thank you, Umberto. Thank you very much. Good. So I could actually pop you another question right now. If you felt nervous, if you felt uncomfortable, did you want to feel that way? I mean, you're doing a presentation, you're going for a job interview. Obviously, you want it to go well. You want that job interview to go well. You want that presentation to go well. Now, and then you're confronted with being stressed and feeling very, very uncomfortable. Did you really want to feel that way? Because if you have it, it sounds like, well, you must have wanted it that way, right? But I guess not. Exactly. So what's happening here? That means there is something there. There is something there that puts your body under stress. There's something there that controls you. Right? So that would be a stress symbol. So let's see, how would that go? You have to do this presentation, right? You practiced, and maybe you drilled yourself, right? And you said, okay, I'm gonna discuss this, I'm gonna discuss that, I'm gonna show this, I'm gonna do that. And you felt you had a down cold. You had a down cold, you knew exactly what you were going to say. Likewise, for a job interview, you knew exactly what you were going to say, you knew what you were going to ask, and so on. And now what happens? The moment is there, something controls you, all of a sudden, there's some change in the body. Your legs start to feel a little weak. You got that butterfly feeling in your tummy. You're doing that presentation, you have a dry throat. You have the idea, oh my God, I need more water. I need more water. And as you're drinking, you find out you still have a dry throat. I wasn't there before, but it just happens to be there right now at that moment. And then what else happens? That whole analytical mind, it doesn't seem to work for you anymore. All of a sudden, that part goes blank. All your memories were stored in there. What you were going to say, what you had rehearsed, it was all stored in there. All of a sudden, it seems like it's not working for you anymore. It seems to have gone blank. So now you're puzzled. What am I going to say? And you may get these ideas already. Oh my God, I'm a fool. Here we go again. I'm not good at this. I really suck at doing this. I'm not cut out for this. I can't do this. And you give up, right? So there was something there that made all that happen. And now let's see where that is coming from. So what happens here is that on that side, just for demonstration, we have basically pictures, memories that have not been affecting you in any bad way. But as you can imagine, we go through life, and of course we have bad memories, right? We have experienced things that have affected us in a bad way. So now here, we're getting another set of pictures. And these pictures actually happen to contain pain and moments of loss. So now pain is something that we want to avoid. Yeah, we're not happy with pain. And loss, likewise, is something that puts us in grief, that puts us in emotions, that makes us feel miserable. It is something we like to avoid. Now, so what life is trying to do, life is trying to keep going on, moving forward, and survive. But pain does actually the opposite. You know, you hurt yourself, you lose your cells, you lose a finger, you lose a hand, you lose a limb, or whatever, and it's a clear sign that actually impedes your survival. So anything that would impede your survival, well, if that will happen, it would be kind of logical if your mind tells you, hang on, don't go there, because that means you might lose, or you might be in pain, resulting in losing a body part, dying, succumbing, not making it, and so on. So let's take a couple of examples. I'm just going to take 4 examples here. Maybe when you were younger, or maybe even at a later stage in your life, you may have had this idea that inadvertently you put your hand between the doorpost and the door, and then the door was shut on your finger. Anybody ever experienced that? The door being shut on your finger or fingers? Or let's say, likewise, you were young or later, and inadvertently you burned your hand on the cooker or the stove. Right? That could have happened as well, right? And probably you may have lost something or somebody that was really, really dear to you. Maybe you've lost a person that you really loved, and maybe you have lost an animal that was really dear to you. Maybe you've lost a possession that was very, very valuable to you. And so these moments, they are there and they have been recorded, and they cause you pain and loss. Now, let's just take a funny example. Maybe, and I will guess most of us have actually had at some point in their life done a blood test, which was, taking blood and getting that blood sent to the laboratory just to check if you're healthy or not. And I suppose probably everybody has done a blood test. Now, if you would contact such a picture, if you would contact a picture somewhere back in time, and you would say, okay, let's see, which arm? All right, it was my left arm. All right, and what was the position of the arm? Well, I had my arm like really stretched. And I had to put my arm on a bench. And I can clearly see the nurse that was in front of me. And now I'm contacting the moment that the needle enters the vein. Now, if you would do that, would you feel a little sensation in your arm? I'm just curious. Maybe you went along with me just by hearing the whole story. Did you get some kind of sensation returning again in your arm? Kyle, yeah, I'm not even going to think about it. All right. Shivani, yes. Yeah. All right, Natalie, yeah. Chills, okay. So Danielle, no, good for you. All the other guys who responded didn't really appreciate that moment too much, I suppose. Well, all I'm trying to tell you is that these moments of pain have been recorded, can be re-experienced. Okay, Vlado from Facebook. Yes, thank you very much for your comment. It's really appreciated. Now, so that blood test, the pain of it, even though it was minute, even though it was very small, Humberto Pinero, yes, thank you very much. Even though that pain was very small, it's recorded. It can be recalled, right? And it can be experienced again. Now, um, let's take another example. Let's say you burned your hand inadvertently, or you had the door shut on your finger. Would you just casually walk over to the stove and just put your hand on it, or just casually walk over to the door and put your fingers between the door and the doorpost? Would you just do that, knowing that it was kind of like all right, it was fine, nobody was around? Would you put yourself to the test and just put the fingers between the door or your hand on the cooker? Would you do that? That's the question. No, exactly. Yeah. So, what does it tell you? It tells you that you have to be cautious. There's something there now that tells you, hang on, you had a bad experience here. Let's not do that again. All right? Let's not do that again. Let's not go there. And even though it would come with a very, very little bit of control there, at that moment you would draw back. In other words, there's something there that holds you down. There's something there that holds you back from a place that might be harmful. So how would that work? Let's say we have an incident here of a cooker. I hope you can see that. There's an incident there with a cooker, and you burned yourself. And there's a cooker here in present time. So now, you look at it, and believe it or not, this bad experience will actually come in between, and that data is going to be added to the present time environment. So this data here will actually tell you to be careful because you had a bad experience. Now, just as your feedback here, would that make any sense to you? Okay, happens every time when I use a knife. Yeah, all right. Good. So everybody's in agreement, yeah? So you can actually see it's not hard at all to understand the mind, right? It's actually quite easy once you know. You can imagine the guy who researched it, he had to go through quite some trouble to find out. But he did find out. So now what do we know is that that moment here has a painful charge connected to it. There's a painful charge connected to it. The only thing that is troublesome in your mind is not the picture, is not the memory, it's basically the pain that's stored in these pictures. Now, I'm going to give you another example. And I do want you to stay in present time and try not to get emotional because it might ruin the next half hour of the webinar. But this is a very, very tricky question. What happens if you think back of the loss of somebody or something that was very dear to you? What happens when you think back of that moment? And the question is, does the emotion come back? Does the emotion come back to you? Yes, clearly. Natalie, yes. Yes. Okay, good. So Yes, along with stress in the head. Okay, I got you. So what we have here is an automatic self-protective mechanism. The point here, however, is that it is actually very rudimentary, very, very simple. It doesn't differentiate, and it makes terrible mistakes. It makes horrible mistakes. This cooker here is not that cooker here. The doorpost over there is not the doorpost where you actually hurt yourself. You might get a syringe and not even want to touch it. But that syringe is not the syringe that jabbed you in your arm, right? So the whole problem is that there's something there that makes it very, very difficult to see. It's like there is a filter, like there is a filter there that makes it difficult to see these pictures, and they seem to be out of sight. And so for that reason, we have trouble with it. So basically, just bottom line here is that you could probably see now that there is a source that's holding you down, correct? Good. Now, basically, so now we have two parts of the mind. That part we call the analytical mind, and this one actually has another name to it, and we call it the reactive mind. And like I said, it's the part of the mind that acts really, really stupid. It's the stupid part of you. This is the smart part of you. That is the stupid part of you. There's basically just moments of pain that have been stored. They're out of sight, and you can't really untap them right away unless you apply a method. And like the first step of that is actually given in the book, which will help you to erase the pain. And it's a mental pain, so we're not going through physical pains and stuff. It's just by having a look at things, actually it starts to erase. It's actually that simple. Very, very simple example. Let's say you had a quarrel with your partner, and you're calling each other really bad names, and now you have to go off to work. Now, your attention while you're working is probably still at that quarrel. So that is an example of having some charge on an incident, which is kind of like a painful charge. It might result in a loss. So it builds up that charge. And what you find out is that when you go home and you actually have a conversation with each other and you completely bring it to understanding, what you'll find out is that charge that was sitting there the whole day erases. Just telling that it can be very, very easy, even on yourself, to get rid of a whole lot of that crap that's there and that's holding you back. Now, we have incidents in that part of the mind, and on top of that, of course, we're dealing with people, and so you can also find people in the mind. Imagine that you had a very bad experience with somebody. You had a very bad experience, let's say, with a ginger head, right? Could be a boss that had ginger hair, or it could be a partner that had ginger hair, and it was a bad experience. Now, let's replace the cooker for somebody with similar attributes. somebody who has ginger hair or something like that. And what happens? That earlier moment just comes into the equation when you think about that person. So you can actually see that people become part of your daily thinking and behaviors. So what's important is that what people can do to hold you down as well. So in other words, the physical universe itself can hold you down. The cooker can burn your flesh, right, and will tamper with your survival. You put your finger between the door and the doorpost, it will tamper with your survival. You break a leg, it tampers with your survival. Something hits you, usually something built in a material universe, and it tampers with your survival. Now, people can do that too, and we actually have to look at the interaction of people on top of all the other painful moments. So I'm going to wipe the board. Bear with me for a minute. By the way, Stoika, I think you're in the camera, right? You can nod. I think I see you on camera. Or maybe it's just an image picture. Anyways, good to see you. Good. So some people were here on Friday, just recent Friday, and I spoke a little bit about human behavior. I'm going to make it a bit more simple right now. You could subdivide human behavior, how they interact with you, and also how they control you. Remember, something was controlling you, and some people use control in a way, you could say, to control others. And you could actually divide it in brackets. There's a category of people which you'll find are more enthusiastic about life. They might be a bit conservative, they might be cheerful, but their purpose is to help. And so these people are happy when you do well. Now, there's another group of people that dominate. Let's see, what's the time? Oh, all right, I gotta hurry up. So there's people who dominate, which is basically do what I say or face the consequences. If you do that, we're no longer going to be friends. You hear me? So people use punishment, they use threats, and they use domination in order to control and hold you down. And then finally, we have nullification. Finally, we have nullification. Nullification comes from the word null, which means nothing. So there's people who actually try to make nothing out of your plans, try to make nothing out of you, try to make nothing out of your ambitions. And it's very important that you actually do know these categories. What happens is that in the upper bracket, you'll find people who want to help, and they're really happy if they've been able to help you. In the domination band and the nullification band, you basically have bad control. And these people are actually trying to get you down. And that person is happy interestingly enough, in this band, people will be happy if they can successfully keep you down. And then basically it tells them they're succeeding. They can still be above you, and from that position, keep you under control. That is their mindset. Now, these people are very much in their reactive mind. So they're not really analytical in their thinking. What they're doing is very, very counter-survival. I'm just bringing this up quickly because I'm going to read you one page of the chapter of the book. So nullification is, for example, you know, I'm telling you this as your best friend, right? You know I just mean the best for you. I don't want to see you suffer. But don't you think that job is a bit above your capacities? What if you're going to fail? You know, last time you failed, you were in so much grief, and you failed so often. So I don't want you to fail again. Why don't you find something more suitable and more simple, more fitting to your profile? Something like this, right? That would be nullification. It's a hideous way to control people and to bring them down with the pretense of being a good friend, with the pretense of, you know, having you having the best interest at heart for you, but actually that is completely false. Now, let me see. I think it was page 297. No, 93. All right. So, I need to clear up one word with you because that's at the very, very beginning of the sentence. And that word is aberrated. And aberrated, it comes from that science that has to do with glasses, with magnifying glasses, with telescopic lenses, and it basically means to look at things in a crooked way, to look at things not in a straight line. So aberrated. Let me see if I got another definition here somewhere. No, I don't. So let me just sketch it. Let's say an individual wants to go from A to B, and you could say, you know, if his mind is sane, he takes a straight line to get there. But if he would be aberrated, he would do something like this in order to reach his destination. Now, for example, I just previously gave the example of a ginger hair person or a cooker. And having experiences with a ginger hair person or a cooker, these experiences come in between you and what you're looking at. and that would be an aberration. So in other words, if you're doing a job interview and there's this random ginger hair person in front of you, and you start to get those memories back and start to be a bit nervous about the whole thing because there's some similarities, that would be aberrated. Yeah, it would tell you to do something else than just be in a straight line. Likewise, when you do a presentation or whatever else you're running into, yeah, that reactive mind makes things aberrated. Now, aberrated individuals use two distinct and very aberrated methods of controlling others. The first consists of forcing the other person to do exactly what is desired with the mechanism of recrimination and denial of friendship or support unless instant compliance takes place. In other words, you do exactly as I say, or I'm no longer an ally of yours. And that would be outright domination. Additionally, it seeks by anger and outright criticism, accusations, and other mechanisms to pound another individual into submission by making him less. So that is all domination. And so basically, you can read that back in the book. It's on page 293. The second method might be called domination by nullification. So nullification is that band, and this is covert, which is it's hidden. It's as if the person is wearing a mask, and the mask shows friendliness, good intentions. So it's covert, it's hidden. So the second method might be called domination by nullification. This is covert, and quite often the person upon whom it is exerted remains unsuspecting beyond the fact that he knows he is very unhappy. That's the coward's method of domination. The person using it feels that he is less than the individual upon whom he is using it, and doesn't have the honesty or fortitude to admit the fact to himself. Then he begins, much as termites gnaw away a foundation, to pull the other individual down to size using small carping criticisms. The one who's seeking to dominate strikes heavily at the point of pride and capability of his target. And yet, at any moment the target challenges the nullifier, the person using the mechanism claims he's doing so solely out of assistance and friendship, or disavows completely that has been done. All right, so now how does that add up? So you have in your reactive mind remember, the reactive mind is pain, loss, these kind of bad experiences. So you have pain there, you have loss there, but then this is all bad control. that is bad control done by others, this reactive mind also causes you bad control. And now the individuals that are trying to control you in a very, very bad way, they happen to be a part of your reactive mind as well. So you might have this idea, I'm not good enough. I'm not cut out for this. I can't do that. And whatever is there, all these considerations of self-doubt, self-criticisms, basically just lowering yourself. Well, remember this. These thoughts, they must have come from somewhere. And guess what? These two bands, domination and nullification, that's where they are coming from. So you have individual voices, individual phrases, individual ideas, individual decisions or decision making registered, recorded in your reactive mind that has been given to you by others, and it's stored there. So whenever there's a situation that's more or less a little bit similar, that thing just might actually control you again. Now, it might seem almost too much to fathom. It might seem too much to handle. I can tell you that's not the case. It's quite simple to handle. The trick of the mind is that the mind is able to solve the problems of the mind. That's a brand new discovery. Your mind is able to solve its own problems. A further discovery was made in that we don't need to empty that whole reactive mind. You might say, "Oh man, I'm not even going to get started because I might have to work on it for years and years and years." It's not true at all. What was discovered was that there were some key incidents that would actually keep the whole thing together. And when that key incident was found, it appeared that the whole thing would clear up. And that's called a clear. Now, so in case you're interested in knowing more about this and getting started, because you have a tremendous amount of potential, you have a tremendous amount of capability, then you might only be using 10% or less. So where did the 90% go? Where did the 90% of your capabilities and your potentials, where did they go? Well, it went over there. It's somehow there that's now working against you. So with this technology, because it is a technology, you can actually start undoing that stuff. And it contains a method that if you would work on it, like for 15 minutes a day, just as diligently as, for example, you do your workouts, you go to the gym, you take a walk, or you make your food. You do that like for 15 minutes a day, you will see a tremendous amount of change in you in just several weeks. Yeah? I've had many people telling me that within a month they saw very big changes. It has a test in the beginning of the book, which is kind of like a personality test to measure yourself where you are right now. At any given time, you can do the test again to basically see, okay, how am I doing right now? Now, on top of that, there's also a tool in there to predict your own behavior and human behavior. In other words, you can actually predict the behavior of people around you. Now, normally what we do is, that book is selling for 17 euros, and we always have some kind of a gadget, and tonight that is more about the the people that you will find over here. What are their exact characteristics? What is at the basis? Why do they do what they do? Why do they behave in such an antisocial way? Yeah. So that talks about the antisocial personality. It talks about the attributes, how you can actually recognize such people. Well, basically, it also tells you how to deal with them. And so basically, these two, the book and booklet, they go hand in glove. They make a perfect match together. And what we have for you tonight is that you're gonna get the book, that one complimentary, together for 17 euros. That includes shipping as well. So my colleague Dita is going to pop up a link for you guys and have a look. I got a little bit thirsty from talking for an hour. I'm going to have a sip of my ginger tea. And meanwhile, you can have a look and then we wrap it up. Oh, we still had somebody waiting. All right, let me have a look at the comments. Avi, thank you very much from Facebook. Ronnie, I grew up with a dominating sister. I wish not to speak to her any longer. Shivani, yeah, I did the webinar last Friday on knowing who you can trust. No clue. I'm going to do that again in probably a couple of weeks, but then I'm going to go deeper into the subject matter. Stoika, I feel comfortable like this. It's okay. All right. Yeah, I realized, guys, I had to actually go a little bit faster, and because I was looking at the time and I saw that we were going to exceed 9 o'clock. I hope that's okay with you. So yeah, I want to wrap it up here. Just getting back to the subject of self-sabotage. So you see the reactive mind at work. There's tons of examples that you could give. Whenever you cannot be what you really want to be, that's your reactive mind at work. Whenever you have the feeling that you cannot do what you want to do, that's your reactive mind at work. Whenever you have the feeling that you cannot have what you would like to have, that's your reactive mind at work. That's your one and single source, the reactive mind, that is keeping you from being yourself, holding you down, and literally self-sabotaging whatever you hold dear, or whatever is good to attain in your life. It'll always throw something in between. Now, obviously, there's people that you may have around you that dramatize that reactive mind of theirs very much upon others, upon you, and you definitely have the right to know more about this. The only reason that we're struggling in life is that we don't have this information. If we do have the information, we can actually start to fix things. So that's what is my final word. I'm still here in case anybody has a question for me. I can stay around if you want me to elaborate on something, pop something in the chat. Rod, thank you very much. That was great. Appreciate the webinar. Makes me aware of more few facts in my life. Ronnie, you're very welcome. Shivani, thank you very much. Amber, the heart and the rose. That's fantastic. Natalie, thank you too. Deborah, relationship broke up. Okay, hot-tempered like my parent, felt uncomfortable. Okay, guys. Yeah, I'm sorry I've not been able to see all your comments, but it's really appreciated. I'm gonna be back on Friday. So what is it? Actually, I don't know. I have no clue what the title is about. I'll find out on Friday. I'll put something nice together for you guys. Maybe you want to come back, and otherwise it's next Tuesday again. So once again, thank you very much. That's it for now. I wish you a very nice rest of your evening. Bye, guys.